7 new pairs. Like every 6 months she takes them back and gets another pair. Because the zippers break constantly. It's like, why don't they just make some good ones that where the zipper, it's gonna cost a fortune to keep giving boots to people. Weirdest thing. So ladies, welcome to our club. Today we're gonna work on our goal. We have some significant goals, I think. Our goal is to recognize and work on the basic principles that you have to have in order to be an effective jumper. Now, as we mature as jumpers, we go through the levels between, you guys are like, what level are you?
I'm kind of like
beginner novice, novice.
beginner novice/novice.
All right, so we're all about the same, so we're all, like 2'6" to 2'9", and maybe some 3-foot fences thrown in there for good measure, right? So, technically 2'11", 0.95, right? So, as we're going through the levels, so novice level, we have a certain set of priorities. When we go to training level, especially our second season of training level, we add a couple of more priorities, and then we can keep adding things as we're getting further and further up into intermediate and advanced. So, but let's talk today about the primary 4 things you guys have to have, and then we'll discuss briefly the things you get to add later that you don't get to add in now, even though you'd like to. All right, so who wants this? There's 4 of you, and there's 4 principles. Who wants to start first? A principle of jumping. Give me a principle.
Is it striding? Stride?
All right. No, but that is a principle. But you don't yet get to do too much on that. But it's a very good guess. So it is a principle, but not one we're going to work on a lot today.
Is balance one?
Balance is one, but not our first one. It is one.
Steady rhythm.
Ah, steady rhythm. Yeah. Yes, it is, but it's not. We'll discuss that in a second. What is your guess? Rhythm, okay. You want to throw it out there? Okay, but yes, but leg on is an action to receive a principle. What's the principle leg on gives you? Give the girl a cigar. No, maybe not. You're too young for a cigar. All right. So power is our number 1 thing. We have to have impulsion. Impulsion is number 1. Now, do you need a lot of impulsion to jump a 2-foot fence? No. But you have to start working on impulsion now. Otherwise, when the fences get bigger, you will run out of gas. So let's talk about rhythm, because that's an area that a lot of people question. I've heard that it's really a good idea to have a really consistent rhythm. Now, rhythm, as a word, what it really means, it means the number of beats in the horse's gait. So who knows how many beats a trot has? 2. How many beats does a canter have?
3.
How many beats does a walk have? How many beats does a gallop have?
3.
That was a trick question. 4.
Ryan, I'm gonna steal this oxer from you so Karen can show this horse. Is that okay?
When I'm sitting under?
Yeah.
Sure. Can I move?
Yeah?
Or do you want to jump with me underneath it?
No. You just stay there. We're gonna take to the other arena.
Oh,
Because
okay.
you're not using this one, correct?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
It's all yours.
Then it's mine.
So, when a horse is really galloping, they go from one leg to the other, kind of a constant rolling movement. But if you're selecting for an event horse, what you're trying to find is a horse that can go 570 meters a minute in a 3-beat gallop, 3-beat canter. Most of them can't. Most of them, they lose their 3-beat canter somewhere around 450. But the horses that have really, the ones that you don't have to really set up for a fence, you can just keep galloping to the jump, they'll usually have their canter balance all the way to about 520. Right, so preliminary speed. And what's interesting is those speeds were not randomly selected. They were selected for real reasons. Right? So let's talk about rhythms. The number of beats in the gait. What you guys are thinking of, which is the word people use for rhythm, is the word tempo. So tempo is not the beats of the footballs, but let's say that have you ever been at the canter and had your trainer ask you to count 1, 2, 1, 2 to hear the tempo?
Yes.
Yeah. So if I clap my hands like this, that sound, the clapping. Now watch my hands carefully. That is the tempo of a canter. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and my hands are the distance apart of a collected canter. Now watch my hands and listen to the sound. That's an extended canter. But the tempo is what?
Same.
Collected, extended, working, collected, extended. But the tempo never changes. So the mistake that we make as riders is we don't have adjustability of longer steps to shorter steps within the same tempo. Does that make sense? So tempo is the word you guys are thinking of. But we've gotten lazy over the years and accidentally used the word rhythm. Now, horses do, especially cross-country courses, do have an internal rhythm. What that means is that even though you're adjusting your strides between the fences in the same tempo, the course has a feeling of being organized and it's smooth from beginning to end, even though you're lengthening and shortening the step. Does that make sense? So it has a rhythm or a sensation that's organized. Does that make sense? So we want to have our horse powerful. We want to have our horse balanced. We want to have, what we haven't talked about yet, we want to have our line of approach and our line of departure straight. Exactly, straight. Now, who wants to offer a little bit of personal evaluation here? When you take your technique on the approach and you take your technique on landing, which one are you typically better at? So landing, approach, landing, really? Wow, that's pretty impressive. Because I would say that 90% of people are much better at the approach and much weaker on the landing side. So that's good though, because we want to be riders who are better on the landing side than the approach. So now we're going to find out whether you guys are truth tellers or honest. Honest, or are you fabricating things? We'll find out. But if you can keep a good landing, you would have had a good approach. So that's the key to that. So we want to have power, we want to have balance, straightness, and then tempo. So it's power, balance, straightness, tempo. Say it again.
Straightness, power, straightness, balance, tempo, power.
There you go. Okay, so always working on that little sequence. Now, once you get past your second season of training level, now as you're doing that, how many of you would agree that occasionally you have a really strong opinion about how many more strides you have till you get to the fence? Like you know your distance. Right? Sometimes, not always, but a lot of times you guys know, don't you? All right. It's absolutely a great idea for you to be kind of regulating that in your mind. I think it's going to be 5 collected strides to that fence, and you get there in 5 collected strides, you're like, I'm really good. I got that in 5 collected strides. Or I see a going 4, right? And you don't change your tempo and your balance and your straightness at all, and you get there in 4. That's fine. What I don't want you to do until your second season of training level is react to it beyond recognition. So once you get done with your second season of training level, then we bring in number 5, which is decision about distance. But you don't get to make a decision about distance until you have proven you can ride your horse without that. So let's see who's really smart here. if what I'm saying is true, beyond the age of the rider, because you guys are all young, or the youngest, the youth of the horse, why are fences smaller at the lower levels? Based on what you just heard about recognizing distances and not reacting to them.
Because not as many people can recognize their distance while keeping a balanced canter.
Whoa, you're exactly. In fact, most people can't recognize their distance without changing their balance and their stride length.
Yeah.
But we want to be as riders who can recognize their distance within the context of their balance, power, and stride length, right? And then, when you finally get allowed to make decisions, then you will change your stride length without losing your power or your balance. If you go the other way, how many of you have ever, now be honest, who has changed their stride length and their balance to get a distance and missed? I have. Anybody ever ended up on the other side of the jump in the dirt, squirming around, wondering why your horse didn't jump? I have. All right. So we've learned over time that that's when we get emotional, isn't it? Like you see a really long forward, you go for it, and the horse stops because they realize that you're going to get them out of balance. So if we can keep things in our priorities organized, you will eventually be able to use your eye effectively, and you'll do a much better job of it. You have to stay calm about it right now. The reason the fences are so little is even if you screw it up, they'll still get over it. All right? They're so tiny that it's easy to get over it. All right? So that's why they're small. They're not small because you're young. They're not small because your horse is young. They're small because we need you to be able to stay calm about your principles and not worry about the height of the fence. At least not too much. Does that make sense? So, we start with a couple little exercises. Over here behind you, we have a very fun little exercise of 3 placing rails. Now those placing rails, those poles are set for the canter, and they're set at 10 feet apart. 10 feet. Now who can tell me how 10 feet relates to the normal stride length of a show jumping horse? Is it long, short, or indifferent?
It's kind of short.
Kind of short. So what is the normal stride length of a combination? 12. So a normal canter stride for show jumping is on a 12-foot step. If you're a pony, it might be a little shorter. You have to really reach for your 12-foot stride, but you can get there. Right? Eventually they'll get there. It's harder when they want to lose their balance a little bit, but for horses it's pretty easy to be on a 12-foot stride. Right? And this is on 10. So what is going to happen to the horse's canter when we go from a 12-foot stride to a 10-foot stride? What happens? It becomes more collected. Okay, so that does collection increase power or reduce power? I'm pointing. Does collection increase power or reduce power? Exactly, it increases. All right, and so I'll give you a really good example of how it can do that. You guys ever seen your saddle pad's shedding? Lucky it's not still on the sheep, huh? Because the sheep would have mange or something, you know? You'd have to, ooh. So, let's imagine that I have a balloon. Watch my balloon. Now my balloon is not a brand new balloon. It's an old balloon sitting around for a couple days after a party on the floor, and it's lost a lot of volume, so it's kind of not hard at all. So if I have a really soft balloon and I put a hole in it, the air just kind of goes like that, right? But what if I take my hands and I push that balloon really hard from both sides, and then I hit it with a can? Then what happens? It pops, right? Because now I've increased the pressure inside the balloon by compressing it between my leg and my hand. Oh, that's the horse, sorry. So if my leg increases the hind leg movement and my rein a little bit resists it, I can take that pressure and I can create more impulsion. Does that make sense? So that's what this is going to be doing. It's going to help us to get our horses a little bit more collected, but keeping that pressure on with our leg. That make sense? All right, so I'm going to start by doing some stride length flexibility exercises. Now, when we do an exercise rather than a for example, if we go into our dressage arena as we did the other day, and we work on things like the square or leg yields or lengthenings and shortening the stride, those are not necessarily exercises. Those are things that we do every day. Sometimes we do exercises that are based just on you understanding something, to learn something. So what we're going to do is an exercise that you can do for all sorts of different reasons, but it's particularly helpful to help you understand how to use your seat to get a horse to both go into a longer step and to go into a more collected step. Right? So what we're going to do is, as we're going around the arena, we're going to stay a little more collected on our two short sides. Then when we come down our long side, we're going to do, probably at your guys' level, we're going to do about 6 strides of longer steps at the canter, and then 6 strides more collected steps. 6 strides longer, 6 strides more collected. Now we have choices as far as how we're going to use our seat, which means our body weight, in order to motivate the horse to give us a longer step or motivate the horse to give a more collected step. So I'm going to ask a trick question. Do you? Say yes or no. Do you want a trick question? Sure. Okay, go for it. All right, so now, all of us are riding in jumping saddles. And we've seen, or you either have, or you borrowed, or you know what a dressage saddle is. They look really different, don't they? And they're both designed to help us with one end of our stride length spectrum. So the question is, which saddle is more designed to create extension? A dressage saddle or a jumping saddle? Yeah, they both can be used for that, but one of them is designed more to create extension. Good answer. No. But that's the normal answer. This is why this is so important. So it is a trick question. You did a good job thinking about it. And I would say that about 100% of people will answer dressage saddle first. And the reason is that we think of the word extend as a dressage word. But in fact, extend means like going from a working canter to a gallop. So at cross country, we're in an extended balance almost all the time. Right? Stand up in your stirrups. So that position is what you look like when you're in a dressage saddle. You're more vertical, aren't you? More tall with your body. Your hip is more over your ankle. But when you guys sit down, now where is your hip relative to your foot? It's further back, isn't it? So the further back your hip is from your foot, the more you're driving the horse forward. So if literally in a dressage saddle, it's really hard to get them to go to a longer step with your seat only. You've got to really train them. But it's pretty easy to keep them more collected. And as you go through the levels of dressage, there's actually more collected movements. Like at the Grand Prix, it's a lot of collecteds. Your flying changes, your pirouettes, your half passes, your rein back, your collected canter, collected trot. It's all collected with a little bit, some extended canter and some extended trot. That makes sense? The dressage saddle is designed for that. So when we collect in our exercise, show me collected position again. You're going to go up. Good. And as soon as you get them to collect, then you're going to sit back down. Show me that's going to be your extended position. And go back up. A little bit like posting. All right? And back down. So we're going to do actually a posting canter. Now, remember, posting canter can be used for a number of things. We're just using it today. When you sit on the longer steps, and you're going to stand, you're going to go more collected. Just to get the horses loosened up. Right? So head off from me to the left. Go around the arena to the outside. Try to separate yourselves away from one another a little bit. We're going to start the process. So I'll be watching you on the long sides, but I want you to remember to collect, to stand up a little bit more in the turns, keeping your leg on. Then sit. I'll give you 6 lengthening steps down our long side. Then stand up and go more collected. Okay, we can trot. Nice, just trot, we're just trotting. Now, Make some 10-meter circles or cut across the arena and everybody separate up a little bit. If you can cut across and come over here. Yeah, now you've got a pretty good space. That's perfect. You made a circle. Well done, ladies. Okay, now to the canter. In your 2-point position. 2 point. 2 point. Shorter. Your eyes up. You need to make a circle. You can. No, you're fine. 2 point canter. Good job. Okay, so let's start it. Sit and lengthen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Stand and collect. And lengthen. Sit down to lengthen. Sit down to lengthen. Stand up to collect. Thank you. Sit down to lengthen. Sit side. Stand up to collect. All the way up. Stand up to collect. Lengthen. Now we're going to sit down to lengthen. Stand up to collect. Sit to lengthen. Stand up to collect. Sit and lengthen. Stand up and collect. Sit and lengthen. Stand up and collect. Bang. Good job. Sit and lengthen. Good. Stand up and collect. Don't worry about that. Stand more up. Stand all the way up. Really high. Stand up. There you go. Now back to the trot. Okay. And good. Up. Good. Lengthen. Up. Perfect. Lengthen. And up. Collect. Okay. Sit and lengthen. Sit and lengthen. And go tall and collect. Very nice. And trot. Very good. Trot. Run over here. Trot. 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 Everybody trot. Come on back over here. Stand here. Good. Now you can do that in a 6-stride rhythm. You can do it in a 4-stride rhythm, 3-stride rhythm, 2-stride, even 1 if you really wanted to. Now you can choose, as I said, as an exercise, you can choose to do that without any stride length changes either. Just post the canter. It's actually good for relaxing their back. It's not a bad technique for that. Now you can also, if you want, add longer steps by closing your hip angle. Like you would in a gallop or like this, but the downward transition, the collection still comes here. So we can go to our longer step either by closing our hip angle like this, and then bringing our shoulders back and up and our hips forward for the collection, or we can do it with the sitting position. So in show jumping, the sitting is a little bit more effective. In cross country, the closing of the hip angle is a little more effective. You can do both, right? But that's just statistically what works a little bit better, right? Fair enough? Is it fun? Is it falling off? Is the person trying and falling off? That's always funny. Not you guys falling off. That's not funny. It's somebody else falling off. Actually, you falling off is pretty funny. We won't talk about that. We'll pretend I won't think that's really funny. So if you hear me hysterically laughing, I'm really not. I'm just so mortified. Okay, just kidding. So now we got a pretty good canter. Let's go ahead and, so your horse is the weakest, but it's also the youngest. What could you do at the end of your long side, assuming that your horse got the correct lead, which going to the right you probably do. What could you do to reinforce the horse listening to your collecting aids?
Sit up more.
You might, but he's pretty young, so it might not respond to that. You could try a 10-meter circle. You could say to the horse, what you're saying is, this is the aid for you to get a little more collected. I would suggest you listen to it because the 3 strides after I give the 8, I make a 10-meter circle. So would you agree that would you guys all agree that horses learn by repetition? Yeah, so if you're consistent at repeating something, they can memorize it pretty fast as long as you're consistent. All right? So if you're on, now you can also, so you're going to make a circle either here in this open area, or at this end, you might have to go around the one barrel. All right? So you're going to go by yourself this time to the right. Now, I want you to identify which of the 2 seat techniques your horse responds better to. The closing of the hip angle from the 2-point and your leg doing most of the work, and then tall for the collection or your seat. Now the reason is that with young horses, if you sit heavily on their back, they may hollow their back and run away from you. So you're going to have to be a little more careful with this one, so probably the lighter seat. Let's find out. We'll do these one at a time now. Watch her stride length change. Make a circle and use some inside leg to outside rein steps, little leg yield sensations, keeping your eyes focused up on where you're going. Okay, now your transition. Back to the trot, make a circle again. As leg yield the haunches even further to the outside. Let's go to the Go to the walk for a second. Go to the walk. Go to the walk. Walk, 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 walk. Walk, walk. Stay on your circle. Now bring your circle off the wall at the walk. The other walk. There we go. That's a walk. Good job. Good to know you remember what a walk's like. Now, leg yield the haunches to the outside of your circle. Stay away from the metal wall so the horse is not getting stuff in the haunches. The haunches have not moved yet. Leg yield the haunches to the outside. Shoulders stay on the 10-meter circle, and you leg yield. You're getting the neck more bent, but the haunches haven't moved. Not even a little bit. There you go. That's your first real step. Try it again. The left rein, slow the shoulders down. With your right leg, move them. Yeah. You're moving the shoulders more to the outside, but the haunches aren't moving. You've got to use your left rein to stop the shoulders, and there you go. Thank you. That's correct. And you know that, right? Yeah, so don't let him talk you into just bending his neck more. It makes his shoulder fall out, which gives him the counter lead. Okay, now go to the trot. Again, staying on that circle, not quite on the rail. Do the same thing. And when you feel him yield to that right leg, then softly canter. Thank you. Very good. You understand?
Yes.
All right. Good. Reins a little shorter. And collect by going tall and circle using more your outside rein to make your turn. Stay on your circle and show me a little counter flexion left. On your circle, back to the canter. Jump up, back to the trot. Do your leg yield steps first. Still throwing his shoulder out. He's not going to get it. So he's not being bad. You're actually giving him an aid for the counter canter. So you've got to hold that outside rein. You've got to keep the shoulders straight. And you can't canter until you answer the question of his haunches stepping at. There you go. Now you can canter. It may be too late, but try it. Yeah, it's too late. Yeah, never. You got it. Okay, good. So let's try again. On the circle, stretching up a little taller. Counter flexion left. Take his neck to the outside. Neck more to the outside, so you have to use your left leg. Flex him more left. Flex him more left. Turn his head to the outside. Outside. More to the outside. There you go. It takes a ton of left leg. There's your balance. Thank you. That's when he's straight. When he's over bending his neck to the inside, he's not straight. Okay, now back to your wall again. Good. And longer steps. Good job. And go tall and more collected. Oh,